Now, when many hear Empress of Britain, they may think of the larger ship built in 1930. But, as you saw in the thumbnail, it's not. This Empress had a much more famous sister ship, the Empress of Ireland. But despite the Ireland story, the Britain had one to tell too. The two ships were identical sisters and owned by the Canadian Pacific Steamship Co. And they were built by the Fairfield shipyard in Scotland. The Empress of Britain would be launched on November 11th, 1905 and would be completed and ready for her maiden voyage for early May 1906. Now, if we look at some of the specifics of the Empress of Britain, when completed, she had a total tonnage of 1,419 gross registered tons and measured 167 m in length and 20 m wide. She was able to go at a speed of 18 knots. The Empress of Britain was placed on a Canadian route and would make her maiden voyage on 6 May 1906 from Liverpool to Quebec, and on a second voyage, a westbound trip, she broke the speed record from Moville to Rimouski in under 21 hours and 17 minutes, setting a new record, but not showing that the Empress of Ireland and Britain were the fastest ships on this transatlantic at the time. Now, 1912 would be an eventful year for the Britain, as around 2 weeks after the Titanic struck an iceberg and sank, the Empress of Britain would also strike an iceberg on 26 April 1912. But luckily there was little damage to the ship. I bet you that the event struck fear to everyone on board, as most would have heard of the sinking of the Titanic by now. But more interesting, when on July the 27th that same year, the Empress of Britain was making a trip down the St. Lawrence River in fog, and all of a sudden the ship accidentally rammed the ship Helvetia, a British registered collier. Now, unfortunately for the Helvetia, she would later sink down by the stern to the port side, but luckily no lives were lost on either ship. As World War I began in August 1914, the British Admiralty had requisitioned many civilian ships, including the Empress of Britain, to become an armed merchant cruiser. The Empress of Britain was assigned to the Admiral Stordad Squadron in the South Atlantic, and later patrolled near Cape Finisterre and the Verde Islands. In May 1915, the Empress of Britain was refitted as a troop transport ship and would carry Canadian and US forces to and from the Dardanelles, Egypt, India and Europe. Now, the luck of Britain struck again when on December the 13th, 1915, the ship was passing through the Straits of Gibraltar when she collided with an unidentified Greek steamer and sank it. A day later, on the night of the 14th, the Empress of Britain would sink the French troop ship the Jurat Jura after splitting it into two, and luckily no troops were on board. But unfortunately for two of the crew, they would die in the collision. The remaining 62 crew were later rescued, and the Empress of Britain would go on to have an event-free career. Now, when the war came to a close in 1918, she returned to passenger service on a New York route, but this wouldn't be successful, and the ship was put back on her Liverpool to St. John's service in March 1919. But this too would be for a short time, as she was sent back to be used as a transport ship for the CEF in May, transporting troops back to Canada from England. In early January 1920, the Empress of Britain was back to civilian service after a major refit, which converted her coal boilers to oil and modernizing passenger accommodations. However, she changed service again in October 1922, now on the Southampton to Quebec route. At this point, it seems like the company didn't know what to do with the old liner. In 1924, the company gave the ship a major overhaul. She was now a lower class ship and being renamed to the Montreal. But this refit wouldn't be successful and her days were starting to look numbered. In 1926, the ship was given a tourist class accommodations and would later be transferred to the Antwerp to Quebec route for the final time. On the 7th of September 1929, Montreal would make her final voyage, and after having completed the voyage, she had made 119 crossings and would be laid up for the next 10 months, with almost no sign of a future. And on 17 July 1930, Montreal was sold for scrap to Stavanger Shipbreaking Co. and would arrive the following month for demolition. Now, while the ship herself is long gone, a small piece of her is still here, today, after 92 years, which is the Mount Royal Ballroom, which is fitted with the original decors from the ship, including the glass roof and fireplace, and all is located at the Solas Strand Hotel. And that is the end of a video, and my god did I enjoy making this one. Because as many of you know, the Rms Empress of Ireland is my #1 ship. She is my favorite ship. And to make a video about her sister ship was even more enjoyable for me. So I hope you guys liked this video. Again, I certainly loved making it. So also please leave in the comments what you thought of this video. And also thank you so much for the people who have subscribed recently. That really means a lot. But of course now we are trying to reach the 600 subscribers. So if you have friends who like ships or ocean liners, please show them my channel. And yeah, again, leave in the comments what you think of this video, because I really love reading them. So with that out of the way, guys, have a good night or day wherever you are, and we will see each other on the next one. Goodbye.